In my last video, I shared that I was planning on making some improvements in my food plots this year and doing some rotational moving of forage from summer annuals to perennials and areas that I had in perennials into summer annuals. This is an update on how things have been going through our hot and dry spring planting season. After a warm and fairly mild January and most of February, our area received some heavy ice storms in late February, plenty of heavy wet snow in March, and abundant rains and light snows during April, shaping up to be a pretty typical year, or so I thought. But not all was lost, because the native fruit trees came out in full bloom and were growing their apples, plums, and cherries. About the time the mushrooms should have been popping up, the rain just shut off. The first section I worked on this spring is the area I refer to as the garage plot. It's about 60 yards from my garage, and I use it a lot for harvesting does, but I see my share of bucks there too. The ground was a bit higher and drier, so I was able to work it in the middle of May this year. After disking, I dragged it to smooth it out, broadcast the Northwoods Whitetails Seclusion 360 blend, then dragged it to cover the seeds, and then I cultipacked. This plot is where my new food plot trail system ends up at. The next day, I sprayed Harper Growing Solutions Plot Doctor Pentacal, calcium, and liquid lime as a soil improving application. There was moisture in the soil when I planted, and we did get a small rain the following weekend, keeping the seed germination on schedule. I still had 4 to 5 acres to get planted in summer annuals and clover chicory perennials. The weekend of May 20th and 21st, I was able to plant the rest of my 3 fields in corn and soybeans, alfalfa, and more Seclusion 360, and connect the food plot trail. I've been using Plot Doctor products on my farm for 3 planting seasons now. I'm noticing better results than using granular lime and fertilizers. The Pentacal acts as a surfactant and gives the new growth a little more of an advantage. The alfalfa did pretty good considering the drought conditions. Most of you in the Midwest were experiencing the same hot and dry conditions I was having here in southern Michigan. It seemed every conversation was about the drought, local row crops, our food plots, and the lack of rain. Not only were we in drought conditions, the local groundhogs were adding the new struggling plants to their menu. Despite those hungry creatures and the drought, the corn and soybeans were holding their own. About mid-June, we were blessed with about a ½ inch of rain over 48 hours. And they were slow and steady soakers. This gave me an opportunity to plant my last plot of soybeans and some sugar beets as a combination crop. With the recent rains and encouraging plant growth and more rain on its way, I decided it's time to spray some liquid foliar fertilizer on the plots. For me, it requires far less effort than using granular fertilizers. I'm more precise and much more efficient when I'm applying it. I've never had such good looking and healthy plots during a drought before. You'll notice I haven't mowed this plot, and I let the clover go to seed. During hot and dry conditions, it's not a good idea to mow your perennial plots when managing for wildlife. When Mother Nature cooperates and provides us with timely rains and seasonal temperatures, most of our habitat projects and our food plots will perform to our expectations or more. It's these dry conditions, as we've been in since early May, where Us habitat managers need to consider alternative methods and processes such as using the Plot Doctor soil conditioners. I even had a couple of young bucks horsing around in our backyard feeding on my wife's ornamental crabapple tree. But it's nice to see they're so comfortable and moving around, hopefully learning that the ponderosa is where to live. The recent rains have really kicked the corn and the beans into gear. My large destination field planted in Seclusion 360 and the food plot trails leading to and from it are all doing well and growing. Even my late planted corn and soybeans are looking good. Considering the hot, dry, early season planting conditions, followed by 6 weeks of hardly any rain, I ended up learning a couple of things. And that is, the Plot Doctor soil conditioners, when done at the right time of the year, before and after planting, can really save you during those drought conditions. We're a couple of weeks now into some pretty good consistent rains and some warm temperatures, and you can see right behind me my food plot trail of Seclusion 360 chicory and clover blend is doing very well. You'll see some tire tracks where I went through it last night and sprayed some IMOX herbicide to get rid of the competing grasses and broadleaves all in one pass. So with that, I hope everything that you have watched with my update on my food plot drought conditions maybe gives you a couple of nuggets that you can go forward with and use the next year or even later this fall during our typical drought conditions. And remember, good luck and good habitat.